Welcome back to New Amsterdam Radio, the podcast for creative. Of course, it's your boy, the mayor, Flobo Boys, being joined by an individual who may or may not be the most interesting man in the world. But the thing is, like most interesting people, he's all shy about it. Give it up for Nate Miller. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good. How was that intro? I was working on that. You
It
think
was
that
pretty
worked?
good. That's quite the intro. I feel like you set the bar pretty high now.
But I mean, you do a lot of stuff, man. I mean, like most people that are a bit on the show in recent weeks, you are a host, but you kind of bring like this whole different like twist to it because you have unique backgrounds. You have like the technical know-how. I remember, I don't know if I want to get into this, but a couple months ago there was a big host discussion on our previous network, AfterBuzz TV, and you're like, take it to Discord. I was like, I'm on Discord, but who else is on it? You know what I mean? Like being able to empower people at once, I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate for Discord. There's a running joke now that like I work for them, even though I don't, but I would love to, Discord, if you're listening.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely pride myself on being I'm a gamer, so I spend a lot of time online and kind of immersed in internet culture. And part of that is like being up on like the new tech and apps and stuff like that. And I really like Discord. I believe it's really like the future of what social media is going to look like, where it's less. There's just it's more decentralized. It's free to create a server, free to create an account. It relies mostly on self moderation within communities, and the way that especially online communities have like jumped to Discord, and Discord has developed new things for them, like new features and stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. So yeah, I tried to get them on, but it didn't. I got a couple people to join, but I haven't got anybody to respond to any of my messages yet.
Yeah, I think I'm on it. It's kind of weird because it's like a Usenet group mixed with a forum mixed with Slack. It's like it's a lot rolled
Yeah,
into one. I'm in a Rocket League esports Discord, and there's like 400 people in it, and it can get pretty hairy. Being
yeah.
like
I found
mentioning
that
stuff.
most people that interact with Discord are in gaming in some way, because that's
Yeah.
because like even for me, like I am a longtime World of Warcraft player on and off, and my main
Wow.
group of friends is my friend group from there that I've known for 10 plus years now, and we have always been, back then when we were doing raiding, you have to have voice communications to do some of these really difficult tasks. So we
Correct.
use things like Skype or Ventrilo or TeamSpeak, and it just kind of became normal in that community to associate with your friends in that way, and be on chat talking to each other. It became a thing even outside of like organized events like raids, like just hanging out. Like if I'm in my room playing a game, I can jump on the call and I'm with them. So then when Discord came out, it was just a natural progression for us. It made it so much easier to organize in a server. The call quality was better, it was free. There's just so many reasons why we liked it better, and so it was a natural migration for a lot of us. So I think in the way that these online communities are now, it's cool. There's, just like you said, there's like official discords for different games. Like I'm in the Destiny 2 one, I'm in the Warzone one, I'm still in a couple of the different WoW ones for different activities. Like it's really cool to have a place, whenever you are interested in a new game or a new community, that you can like look it up, and more than likely there is a Discord community on that, and you can kind of join and have conversation with people who are in the same topics as you.
So you said you played World of Warcraft. I just wanted your opinion about that. I remember about 10, 12 years ago, there was this push to make it mainstream, and they had like celebrities and commercials. Were you a fan of that, or as broadening the scope of the game, or was that kind of like selling it out? Be like, I'm Mr. T. I'm a night elf mohawk. Like, I mean, how did that work for you?
um I mean, I have a positive view of that. I was also like, I was a kid. Like I'm only 28, so I
Okay,
was
fine.
the
I get you.
but I was the kid like there's a running joke with my guildies where like I was 18 like 3 years in a row, because really I was like 15 when I first joined, and I lied about how old I was because I like to play with adults, because playing with kids are stupid. Adults actually do stuff.
Fair enough.
Um yeah, I rocked the Mr. T Mohawk in game for a long time.
Okay.
I'm not so much of a gatekeeper, I think, with things like this. Like I don't necessarily think it's a problem for something like this to be more popular. It doesn't take away from the game.
Sure.
that being said, from a design aspect, the game has definitely gotten easier. There's still a massive grind required to do high level content, but it's not necessarily difficult content. Like it used to be, the gating was a difficulty. Like you had to achieve something with a timing, or like something with a rare drop rate or something like that. And that did require time invested to get the skill to achieve it. But it wasn't like a hard time gate. Whereas now you can pretty much do everything in WoW if you just put enough time in. And not everybody has that much time to put in, but
Yeah.
it's not. It is definitely, a lot of the systems have streamlined it to make it a lot easier. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think that also is kind of in tune with how game design has gone in general. Like I think, and remember originally too, like WoW, there were other MMOs before it, but WoW was kind of the first one. Like WoW, even WoW in itself, like if you talk to people that played, I'm not going to expose myself by misremembering the names of like EverQuest 2 or whatever, but like there were MMOs before WoW that were even more so based on like tabletop RPGs that were more number crunchy, more like resistance, and you have to have this and you have to have this, kind of like really metagamey stuff. And WoW kind of, even from that simplified, even like classic WoW very simplified that formula
Sure.
to kind of make it more mass appeal.
Probably dated myself, but I remember a buddy of mine, my RA in college, was a big EverQuest fan, and I think he was the worst salesman for it because he was like, "Oh, it's the best game ever." I'm like, every time I watch you play, you're just killing mushrooms. Like, come on, do something.
No, you don't understand. The mushrooms have like a really high sell value or something like that.
There's no
Yeah.
context whatsoever. So Nate Miller, man, you're at the fictional party of creatives here in downtown New Amsterdam. People are like, "Hey, what do you do? What is your elevator pitch that you say to cover all of the slashes, all of the things you do rolled into one, or do you even entertain that?"
I generally, my approach, I mean, I kind of rely on context of the person I'm talking to. I'm really bad about talking about myself. So in general, I never try to fit like all of the things that I do into one conversation. I usually just try to tailor it to who I'm talking to. If I'm at a film party with a bunch of filmmakers and TV people, like I'm going to talk more about going to film school and studying film and stuff like that, and like maybe some of the hosting, but I'm not really going to mention music or gaming or anything of that nature. So
Sure.
I kind of tailor it to who am talking to, but that's always been an issue for me, is like I feel like I have so many interests, and it's hard for me to like just pick one and focus and be like laser focused on that, because
Huh.
as soon as I pick one, then the other ones start to look really good too. So then I
Yeah.
shift gears, and I find myself like constantly shifting gears.
Well, it's funny that you said that because like one of my favorite comic book characters of all time, the second Mr. Terrific, there was say he Michael Holt has an aptitude for having aptitudes, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of people who have that creative base tend to wander, and if you want to be good at different things, I mean that's life experience to roll into whatever you're working on, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think now I'm just at the stage of where I'm trying to figure out how to take what I've learned from these different things
Yeah,
and actually like build them into something that I can build with, for lack of a better word.
sure.
So that's the phase I'm at now. Right now, I'm trying to after the hosting experience I've gotten, I've become I feel a lot more confident with that. And now that I recently built this PC and I have the streaming capability, I'm trying to dip my toes into streaming on Twitch. I did a couple months ago. I just started. I reached the affiliate status. Got a couple of my friends to watch me. But the problem for me was that I wasn't really feeling like just gaming was going to be enough for me. I do want to stream game content because that is something I like to do. But especially after, this last 6 months and being more, as I've gotten more immersed in Twitch, during the quarantine, I've also found a lot of the other side that's outside of gaming, like the just chatting and political streamers. I'm a big fan of Hassan Piker, and watching him, talk about politics has kind of given me this energy of like, well, these issues are something I care about, even though in the past I probably wouldn't quantify it by saying I care about politics. But now that I'm more educated and I understand, the different positions, I am interested in politics. It's something I'd like to talk about. So I want to
Sure.
kind of move in a direction. Basically, right now, I want to be a talking head. I want to do what we're doing, right? Like that's the
Right.
dream. Is to I want people to value my opinion enough for people to call me up to places to say, hey, talk about this. So whether that's politics or video games or movies or music, that's my goal right now. That's what I'm trying to work towards.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. I think a lot of us, a lot of hosts have that same, not the same, but a very similar track. You know, being sought after for your opinion, thought leadership, if you will. You said you mentioned that you were on Twitch. Of all the live streaming platforms out there, why was Twitch the one you ultimately decided to go with? Besides Mixer, right? Because that's not
Yeah, right. And what's funny is I was getting my streaming stuff together before the Mixer shutdown, and I had seriously considered Mixer because there are some good opportunities to go to like a smaller platform. The thing with Twitch is just after I've become immersed in the community, like I think so much of content creation is personality based, that the personalities that I find myself wanting to interact with are on Twitch. And that's not to say that like there are great personalities on like YouTube as well. Facebook I think is a good opportunity, especially for new people. But I honestly just don't want anything to do with Facebook or Zuckerberg. Like Jeff Bezos is enough of a nightmare getting involved with Twitch, but at least it's like a subsidiary of Amazon.
right.
Um, yeah, but I like, I don't know, like I used to be really wary about Twitch, like Twitch chat just like was just the meme to me, like I didn't understand it, and I still don't really understand it, but I have a better understanding now. Um, but the way, I don't know, like it's just a very unique platform that I think a lot of people, like obviously they've had huge growth this year, as mostly because of the quarantine.
Right.
But I think as people realize that there is more content on Twitch outside of just watching, teenagers sweat in their basement or whatever, like I think people will start to see the value of it. People have been streaming concerts. We've had these Zoom panel discussions that have been very interesting, that have been led on that streamed on Twitch. You have people when they could going out and doing real life streams. You've got music streamers. T-Pain is streaming now.
Right.
I've started watching Kenny Beats, who's a great producer. He's just sitting, talking to his chat, making beats on stream. I just really like the platform in general. I think while they do have like all platforms, they have some issues. I think in general they promote a good community. They do positive things. I think the moderation team is more or less on the up and up. I really like Twitch, and it's a very difficult platform to get started in. But also
Yeah. I'm there
some
now.
of the some of the friends that I've made in it, I mean, honestly, the key is the community. Like it's hanging out in other Twitch chats and not going like, hey, come to my channel, but just getting to know some people in the chat. Like it takes a while, but eventually someone will respond to one of your comments and you might have a nice little discussion.
Do you
Or like
plan that though? Is it kind of like, oh, I'm having fun, let me hang on the chat, or is it like, no, from 9 p.m. to 11, I'm trolling for interaction? Like, how does that work?
no, see, and that's the thing is like I can understand that perspective from I would definitely like to think a little bit more in that perspective in terms of like planning things out and working towards a goal and stuff. But I think in terms of this, at least for me, like this has just been more natural because I've been watching specifically like Hassan so much. I've been immersed in his community, in the chat, in Discord, talking to them, meeting with people every now and then. Like someone is wants to play a game, so now we're in a voice chat playing a game, and of course we're a bunch of leftists who watch a leftist streamer, and that's so of course we start talking about politics or whatever interesting things, and I get to know these people, and now these connections are formed, and then a few months later we're talking, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm working on my Twitch stream, and they're like, oh yeah, drop me your thing, I'll give you a follow, and like boom, like that's a follow, and to me, like not only is that a follow, but that's like a friend, like that's an actual someone who when you go live is going to check you out to be like, hey, my friend's streaming, I want to see what they're talking about or whatever, someone who shares interest with you. So I mean, I definitely think you could schedule something like that. I just think it still has to be genuine. Like you can't force it, because that is the one thing that I also do appreciate about Twitch for the most part, is like the culture is very cynical. It's very internet culture. Like
I
you
appreciate
can't,
cynicism.
yeah, you can't sneak them an ad. You can't sneak self promo. Like everybody knows the BS. Like come on. So that's another reason why I like it. Like it's got to be natural and organic, and also that's what makes the big people on Twitch kind of like so interesting is that it's not like manufactured. You know what I mean? Like it just kind of happens authentically. Someone plays with someone in a game and there's a big moment and that gets clipped and then it goes to the top of a Reddit page and everybody sees it and now that guy gets a bunch of follows and then all of a sudden now he's a big streamer. Like
Right.
that's how it happens.
It's kind of funny how the magic happens there. You did mention a lot of things about organic relationship building, which I guess is kind of IRL too. Like the guy that goes to the business meetups being like, "Take my card," never gets the mileage compared to someone who actually cares about and the people that they're working on.
Yeah. I mean, it's also just good sales, right? Like you can't sell something to someone that is not trying to buy.
Oh, well,
That's just how I feel. Like,
dropping the mic. Dang.
well, yeah. I mean, like, what the worst thing is when you go into a store and like you're looking for something specific and someone is like trying to sell you on something else. You know, it's like,
Right.
no, I know what I came here for. Now, if I come here just browsing, thinking like, oh, maybe I'll buy this, maybe I'll buy that. Yeah, sure, but like, know your audience, know your customers, so to speak.
Nate hates Best Buy. Confirmed. No, I'm just kidding. That's my little side platform. Well, okay, you did mention the pandemic, which affected a lot of us positively and negatively. Because I know it's very easy to say, at least for me, to say, "Oh, this pandemic sucked," because I didn't have a traditional job. Most of my DJ gigs got canceled, but it did give me a time to build my platform. Now I have constant shows. So the question I have for you is, how has hosting changed, positive and negative, post pandemic, day to day, week to week, as you build the platform, the foundation, the empire, etc.?
I don't know. Like it's been like it's been good and bad. For me, I wasn't at a point of where I was able to use this opportunity to like really build and establish a brand. And also I also hadn't reached a point of being able to substantiate any type of income from this, venture. So for me with COVID, like I lost, I worked as a server, so I lost that job, as did a lot of people. So it's mostly been tough for me.
Sure.
I had definitely, I feel like if I had been in a different spot, when this happened, I would have been able to take advantage of the opportunity more. But at the time, I was still kind of in a transition period. So I don't know. I kind of up and down. Like I definitely have made a lot of strides towards the places that I want to be, but I've also had a few setbacks.
Yeah.
Um, but I think in general, I would say it's a net positive. A lot of time to think about what I want to do, and also I think in kind of a, a a grim way, the uncertainty of the future kind of spurred more motivation to do what I really want to do and not kind of just exist, if that makes sense. Like
Right.
knowing that you know things could go very left. Who knows what's going to happen? Might as well give this thing a real go, and like put some energy into it. So
Yeah, I can relate to that part for sure. It's like, well, what other opportunities do I have? You can be as detailed as you like here, but for a lot of us who do create in a world where, due to the circumstances, for a small period of time, we were deemed not essential, and so we were requested to stay at home. What got you to the other side of being like, okay, this kind of sucks that I've been cast aside, but I understand it. What keeps you going? Like, what do you do to get the spirits up?
Man, that's a tough one.
Oh well, every day's a battle too. I'm not saying you're out of it because
Yeah.
we're all just in it. But
No,
I just want to know.
I mean, a big thing for me is gaming, obviously. Not only just using it as like an escape, but also, I like to play competitive games because it allows me to set a goal for myself and then see like actual change when I achieve it. Like reaching a rank or something like that. So that's a big thing for me. Also, music, listening to music. I'm a big music guy, and I often use music to relax me, to motivate me. Also, when I'm sad, I listen to music sometimes to like commiserate. Um, and two, like, I mean, really, the last thing is specifically these last few months is like I'm sounding like a broken record, but watching a lot of Twitch, like having for me being able to have a stream on and having somebody, just talking in the background helps me be productive sometimes.
Yeah.
But also like you know everybody's going through this, and so even like these streamers and I watch a lot of smaller streamers too who are really good at talking to their community and stuff, and like just having people to kind of commiserate with and like hear other people's experience about what they're going through, helps put things in perspective, stuff like that. My family too, being able to talk to my family.
Yeah. Are they local?
Uh, no. Well, yes and no. My dad lives in Chatsworth, so he's relatively local. And then my mom lives in North Carolina. My sister's in Atlanta, so they are obviously not local.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense. And so I guess calls, FaceTimes, group
Yeah,
chats.
exactly. Lots of FaceTimes.
Yeah, I should probably get on that. My parents they all have it. They have the technology, and they're not like noobs at it. But I always feel weird FaceTiming my parents. It's always like huh? What are you doing? You're calling me? They're all in New York. Everyone's in New York. I'm the guy that tried to follow his dreams out here in California. Do you consider yourself a local person, or do you consider SoCal, like on the Chatsworth
Oh
side?
yeah.
Or
I mean, I'm from here. I was born in Burbank. I've lived here, with the exception of 2 years. I lived in Ohio. My parents had to move back because my dad lost his job. I've lived in LA my whole life.
and I guess you love it, or this is
I
hate.
mean, I hate it, but I can't imagine living anywhere else. And also, like, no one who's not doesn't live here, I will not allow to say bad things about it. But yeah,
So
I mean, I
I,
hate
I
it
want to ask you that too because I feel like as a transplant, transplants ruin the city. Like people from
for
LA
sure. They
are
do.
dope as hell, but I don't
They
understand
do
why we're so bitter.
because so this is most natives will be able to tell you this, right? This is what it is. It's very simple. People have an idea of what LA is, and so when they come here, they think, okay, I have to be that, and so
Mhm.
they do that,
Okay.
and then that's not really them, so it's like fake. So then they come and then they're around a bunch of other people who are doing the same thing. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like
Yeah.
people think that that's the way it is, so then when people come here they act like that, and so it kind of makes it like that, but it's not really like that. So you have a
Right.
bunch of people in a room pretending to be a way that they all think they're supposed to be, and then there's a few of us in the corner that's like, what are you guys doing? Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
place is it's a desert with a bunch of drugs and sex and like dirty cops. Like it Hollywood is not like this big glitzy, like everyone has to be a certain way. And I mean, obviously the other big thing is the entertainment industry, like which is built on a, relationship basis of where you don't want to step on anybody's toes, you want everyone to like you, keep smile to their face, stab them in the back later kind of a thing. So that to me, like people from LA are real. Like they just tell you what it is. They don't like they like you, they don't like you. Like some people like that, some people don't. But for me, in my experience, most transplants, not all, especially when they first come here, there's just like a fakeness about them because not because they're like fake people, but because they think that Hollywood or LA is like a certain way, and they're
Yeah.
trying to like fit in. They're trying to be like that.
So
And
it's like you're a nerd in high school, but you're like, I want to go to college and be different. So you try being
right,
a character or whatever.
exactly. And
Yeah.
then like, your sophomore year, you realize like this is stupid. I'm just gonna focus on my major, and
Yeah.
then that's why like I do believe that you can be a transplant and kind of like uh cross into the native space, like and be a real LAN or whatever we want to call it.
They call me Angelinos, but I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't think it'd be too familiar with a town that can totally take me to the cleaners with parking fees. So
Yeah,
just keep myself just a little bit distant.
yeah.
So here's kind of an obvious question, but I do have a follow up. Do you consider yourself a nerd?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
Okay, so what kind of nerdums do you think specifically, if I had to say it was like the ones you're most nerdish about?
I mean, I feel like again, like kind of like with the interesting, like I'm a nerd of many scapes, but not like super deep into any of them, if that makes sense. Like
Okay.
I'm a really big comic book nerd. I haven't read any recent comics in years,
They
but
make it hard to. Like with Diamond being the
yeah,
way it is and all that stuff,
yeah, it
it's a pain in the
costs
butt.
so much too.
Yeah.
Like I still have boxes of like comics in my closet, and it like I haven't opened those boxes in years. It's like, why do I have these? Um, Comics, video games, obviously. I'm also a really big music nerd. Again, my dad is a musician. I was raised He always wanted me to play music, and I fought it for so long until eventually I fell in love with it, and then I was like, why did I fight this for so long?
Yeah.
I'm a
What did you
big
play?
music nerd. I'm really a drummer, but now I'm a guitar player because I don't have a place to play drums really. Um, yeah, I mean, I grew up in a house, so like I was always able to in a musician's house. My dad always had a studio, so I was always able to play drums growing up. But then, in LA, when you move out, you
Yeah,
just
pay per
apartment to
hour.
apartment to apartment to apartment. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way. So yeah, so I kind of taught myself guitar. So I've been playing guitar for better part of 10 years now. Not like constantly, but kind of on and off.
Yeah.
But I'm a big music nerd. I really like knowing about like the creation of albums and trivia and who was in what band and who played for what kind of a thing and what songs are about too. I like learning. Like,
True.
I am really interested in different songwriters and like their different lives and stuff like that and how that affects them. I'm all about that kind of thing.
Yeah. Just curious for me, like favorite superhero and most underrated, if you have one or the other or both.
I mean, this is really basic. My favorite superheroes, it has to be Wolverine. Like I've just always been a
He's
big
OP
Wolverine
though,
fan.
bro.
He is OP. He is OP, but the thing about Wolverine's OP-ness is it actually adds to his character. Like that was one of the things I found so interesting him is like the idea that this man who's able to live for so long while he falls in love with these, women and has relationships with these people and they're all just like dying and he just has to like keep going. I found that very interesting. I also really like the whole like not knowing his backstory and like kind of working through that. I always thought that was really cool. And like, come on, like, dude, it's like Wolverine. Like, I could lie to you and say like, oh, it's like Bishop, but like, come on, it's
Right.
Wolverine. Like,
Yeah.
he's an Avenger and an X-Men. Like,
Oh, really? You're doing that?
I mean, come on, dude. Like,
Who
that
wasn't an
scene,
Avenger, bro?
that book, the book where Magneto pulls his
Bro.
that issue where he pulls the adamantium off his like, bruh.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah, just too many good. He has to be. I always hated Cyclops, so that team Wolverine.
You probably hate
Under
Leonardo the Turtle too, but it's okay.
I don't hate Leonardo, but he's definitely my least favorite. He's definitely my least favorite.
Hate you.
Underrated, most underrated.
Yeah.
You said this is superhero. You said
Yeah, I mean, I would say a comic book hero from the big two. Like, it doesn't have to be a
From the big two.
superhero. You can do
Okay.
vigilante if you like.
No, yeah. Let's do. Man, I was not prepared for this.
Tough questions. I asked all tough questions.
You do ask the tough questions. Underrated. Now I feel silly for not really reading comics in a while.
Well, the one that you like, was dope, but you always have to convince people that they're dope. You know, like, yo, really, you don't think that? Blah blah blah. You know.
I know that there are characters that I want to mention, but I haven't had like a deep comic discussion in so long that
Yeah.
like that part of my brain is like it's like there's like it's like a rusty lock and my brain is like come on
The
open
Library
it.
of Alexandria is like all locked away.
Right, like yeah, exactly, like panicking. I don't know where the key is. I'm gonna say let's go with like Cable. Like I like
Okay.
Cable a lot.
Yeah.
I'm a big X-Men fan in general, so I really like I really like Magneto also too. Doom is a big person. That's somebody I do argue for. I think Doom is one of the best villains like ever written.
I thought you were going to say Doom off the bat, but there is no Victor. There's only Doom. Ugh. That
Well,
movie's
you said
terrible.
heroes, so
Oh, come on. He's a hero in his own right, in his own head, in his own.
from his perspective, yeah, for sure.
No, it's interesting because I'm a DC guy, as you can tell back here.
I know, I saw.
With the exception of Batman, he's actually my least favorite hero of all time. I don't like
Yeah,
Batman.
because he's not a superhero.
Yeah, one, and two, Iron Man's way cooler. But again, talking about OP-ness, right? Everyone thought that he could totally destroy the sun or like any kind of galaxy because he has a space suit, an underwater suit. Like, come on, bro. You have to have a limit. You can't knock Superman for being too strong, but Batman can do everybody else.
I don't want to get too deep, but in my opinion, there is a specific reason why a certain community of people will defend Batman like with their life almost. And it has to do with the indoctrination of America and the things that we value and also our perspective on crime. And that's as far as I'm going to go into that right now.
Are we having a woke discussion? I can't. I can't tell. Well, I always felt like Batman would be the only superhero we can't like gender swap or race swap because of the symbol, the paragon of privilege,
Yeah,
if you
it
will.
wouldn't
Yeah,
it wouldn't work. It wouldn't make sense.
yeah, that's true. He's like his life is perfect, but then there's a deep dark side or what have you. I know we're kind of running low on time, but I really want to ask you about the future. Right? We don't know what it holds. We don't know what's going to happen next week or whatever. But I like to say this: if you were building your own city, your own empire, everything is in your image. What does that look like? What does your digital efforts look like? What do you, as a person, of going to your public fandom? What does that Nate Miller brand look like?
Honesty and transparency. I've always kind of been a know-it-all kind of a guy, and I'm trying to move away from that. In one hand, I want to be able to humbly say, like, I am a very intelligent person. I can grasp large concepts, but on the other hand, I also want to say, like, life experience is, in my opinion, the greatest teacher, and I only have my experience. And as a smart person, the best thing I can do is learn from other people.
True.
So I want to create a platform where I can express my opinions as strong and, even sometimes wrong as they may be, and have other people either agree with me or disagree with me so I can learn from people. That's really ultimately what I want to do. I want to educate people about facts that I know, as well as share my opinion, to encourage discussion, because I think that's the most important thing. I've always been that guy in the group that like is the first person to make like the black joke or whatever, and it's like, why you always got to make it about race, Nate? And my philosophy is I'm not making it about race. It always is about race. I'm just having us talk about it. And
Yeah.
I feel like if we have more of these uncomfortable conversations, like a lot of people have had in the last few months, that is how you get to change. You don't just get to saying like, oh, racism is bad. Like, don't talk about it. Like, no, we need to talk about why it's in this conversation. Why don't you want to talk about it? Why does it make you feel uncomfortable? So that's really what I want to build my brand around.
So this summer you did protest, by the way, right?
I did, yeah. I went to a couple. I went to two protests. Nothing crazy. I just really, I don't know. Like, I can't explain it. Like, it just felt like something I had to do. With everything going on, and the other thing is too, like, I was just feeling really angry too with everything going on, and it was a life changing experience. Honestly, being there and seeing, especially during a pandemic, like seeing people with carts just walking around with masks, offering masks to people with big, bags of hand sanitizer, giving people hand sanitizer, people walking through giving snacks, cold water, um, just the way that the crowds were, for the most part, being respectful with each other, like getting out of the way, letting elderly people through, like not don't push on the rails, stuff like that. Like that is what actually gave me a lot of hope that I didn't have at that time. I was feeling a huge lack of hope in America, in our future with the pandemic, and seeing that hope with those people and the love for the community and other people that are not your own, not not because it serves you for any reason, just but because it's the right thing to do. That gave me a lot of hope for the future. I still think we are a long way off from an ideal place, and some real meaningful change, but I see like a sliver of hope now that makes me, for lack of a better term, not want to give up. It makes me feel more energized to keep educating, to keep talking to people, to keep spreading the truth. Because with things like the internet, we have access to so much knowledge and so much information, and for a long time, the tool of oppressors is controlling information. So now, being able to share information, access information, and uplift each other, I think the world is heading to a good place.
Pandemic aside, why was this year different for you? I mean, because we were black for a long time, right? And
It
and
it
Why was
it's
it different?
it. I mean, I don't think that you can set the pandemic aside. I this is so. I mean, I don't think that you can set. I don't think that any of this happens without the pandemic,
Okay.
because the way that the system is set up, to get deep, right? You keep the workers busy. There's a reason why cost of living is so high. If you're able to comfortably work, and still have time to go home and think about the position and the life that you're in, that's when you start to question and you start to revolt and you start to have protests. So you have all these people that have been being oppressed, that have been being pushed down, that are now at home, especially with the stimulus going on. They're able to eat and or pay their rent, or live in some capacity more than they were before with, and now they also have the free time to educate themselves, to learn, to actually go out and protest. I mean, I have been to other protests before, not for as long or with as many people, but also I was working back then. Like there are many times when there'd be protests and I want to go, but like reasonably I can't go. I can't miss this day at work. I'm working paycheck to paycheck. Like it's not realistic for a lot of people. So the pandemic is not, even though it's a natural thing that just kind of happened, it is the catalyst that I think is going to set real change off. It really showed people, what our leaders and the people who make decisions, how they value us monetarily, like what
Hmm.
really matters to them. Looking at the death tolls, looking at how long it took for things, safeties to get implemented, and then how quickly they were repealed when it wasn't safe enough. Things like this are drastically important. And the one thing I will say outside of the pandemic, but I don't know if this happens without the pandemic, but me watching someone like Hassan, who is a leftist, and learning more, you know, having definition of what my politics actually are, that was a big thing too for me being involved. Like for a long time, I think the Democrats are not doing enough. I think the Republicans are trash, obviously, and I also feel like we're stuck at where we never have a good choice. So for me, a long time as a youth, I was like, I'm just not going to be involved because I think politics are stupid. But learning from someone like Hassan about leftism, and like, no, you can believe in Medicare for all. You can believe in things like socialism. You can believe that things like Marxism aren't inherently bad, and that like communism is not a dirty word. It has just been misused by people like Stalin. Like there's nuances to all of this politics stuff. Like it's never been black and white. It's always shades of gray. And so learning more about that and social democracy and stuff like that, like I have found more politics that I'm aligned with, which makes me feel more invigorated. Like, okay, not only are there other people who believe what I believe in, but it's a discussion that I can learn from them, they can learn from me, and also I can bring this to other people.
Sure.
I think that's the big thing for me this year.
We're seeing now more than ever that creatives are instilling their beliefs into creative works. And there's actually a past episode about this on the show. Do you worry on any level about your personal beliefs having to interact with your creative content, and whether or not that will lead to some sort of fallout with your potential audience? Or is it kind of like your content and your beliefs are 100% aligned?
Yeah, the second one, 100%. I personally, um, I I cannot. I can understand why other content creators might be cautious with expressing their political beliefs or like having those kind of things intermingle. I personally believe that there is no way to separate them. I think, in most cases, what people call politics is actually just like humanitarian, discussions of like what is right to do against people and not. And I think a lot of things have been politicized that aren't even really politics. So I think in terms of me, I will always, in whatever content I do, I'm always going to be me. And part of being me is speaking the truth about capitalism and white nationalism and classism and a bunch of other things that plague our modern day society. And I am never going to remove that from a conversation I'm involved in if it is relevant to that conversation. That being said, I try not to. I'm not trying to bash the nail on the head. I don't try to bring it up in places where I don't think it's relevant.
Sure.
I just am not going to shy away from it when I think it is relevant to the actual discussion. And that may make it harder for me to grow, but I also think that when I do grow, it will be with the people who I actually want my community, to be. I don't necessarily want my community to only be people that I agree with, as much as I want my community to be people that are open-minded. So even if you disagree with someone, you can actually have an intellectual discussion with them. But that does stop at the disagreement on like the value of lives or like people being injured. Like when someone's life is at stake, for me there is no like not like, all right, well, we can agree to disagree. For me, like, no, we just disagree. You can be over there and be on the side of people being hurt and oppressed and whatever, and I'm going to be over here trying to educate people about what's really going on.
Wow. Dang, man. Well, that's great because I think above all, it's all about authenticity, right? The relationship building, building your all that stuff. It's all about being yourself and being real. Again, thank you so much for being on the show this week. Can you tell the world where they can follow you and find you and become one of your fans? One of your what do you call your fans something special or just no? Where can people find you online?
I haven't reached that point yet. I don't have a nickname. First of all, I want to thank you so much for having me on the show. This was really cool. I'm a big fan of yours. I had seen you at AfterBuzz and stuff, but we had not really interacted. We just kind of had people mutual in common. So this being on your show for me, this is really cool. Yeah, guys, you can find me everywhere on Twitter, Instagram, and also Twitch, twitch.tv/doglikenate. It's dog with 2 G's. Feel free to tweet me, tell me why I'm wrong or agree with me, whatever. I love having discussion, interaction, stuff like that.
Real quick, do you have a favorite Nate Dogg song, or are you just like don't even like the guy? I was curious about that. Like, do you have a Nate Dogg song? Like,
I mean, I do like Nate Dogg. I'm not like I wouldn't consider myself like a big Nate Dogg fan. I don't know if I have a favorite song, like Regulators,
okay,
stuff like that. But
classic.
For me, like when I think Nate Dogg, my mind, this is kind of bad, but my mind immediately goes, yes, dude. I grew up on that movie. Me and my dad watched that movie together all the time. But like, like I just watched that movie like a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Like, to me, like whenever I picture him, I just see him in that video, like standing in front of Mount Rushmore. Like,
that was my project in high school, was to clip all the Nate Dogg songs from that movie into one track. All right, we gotta get out of here. Please come back. I want to talk to you more about how your stuff is growing and definitely get more into the nitty gritty of your Twitch streaming. Teach me Discord because I'm an old man. Invites always open, man. New Amsterdam Radio, come through.
Yeah, awesome. I'd love to be back.